A lot of my music is about my recovery. It's something that I struggled with very heavily for many years. It kind of started off with trying to fit in high school. By the time I got to college, it had started to, rear its ugly head. I found myself in jail with a DUI, DWI, I don't remember. And it kind of dawned on me that if I kept making the decisions that I was making, my life was going to end in one of three ways. It was going to be in a jail, an institution, or I was going to die.
Well, I've been keeping all these secrets and hiding all of my feelings. I'm drinking every day just to cover them up. Wasted pieces of paper, I'm changing in paper. When would I figure out it was never enough?
Tyler Herwig joined me on the podcast to share his powerful story of addiction and recovery. Known for his chart-topping single, Living in the Last Days, which hit number 8 on the country charts. Tyler plays over 250 shows a year, proving that behind the music is the story of strength, healing, and hope.
What were you feeling during this time? Why were you reaching for alcohol or drugs?
There's a couple reasons.
Welcome to Motivation Monday. I'm so excited for today's special guest. I got the opportunity to sit down with Tyler Herwig. Tyler Herwig is a musician and a singer, and he's a chart-topping artist in the indie, country, and pop scene. And his Living in the Last Days song climbed to number 8 on the country charts. He plays over 250 shows a year across the Midwest. But before he got there, he had a lot of struggles and challenges he had to overcome, and he shares that with us today. I'm very excited for this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Hi, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
How was your day so far?
So far, so good. Woke up, went to Quick Trip, went on TV, the usual.
The usual typical day.
Yeah.
Routine. Well, I'm super grateful to have you here today. I kind of found you online on Facebook, and I saw that you were going to be at the Chancaska Winery performing, and I was like, who's this guy? We got to get him on our podcast and on our show. So I went and researched a little bit about you, and you got some traction. You got some cool songs. Your Living in the Last Days climbed to number 8 on the country charts. Let's start there. How does that feel?
It feels kind of indescribable, really. Like a lot of the songs that I write, like I don't expect that they're gonna blow up and go viral, like on TikTok. I don't expect them to like make a big splash on radio.
You should.
I should. From now on, I will, because it finally happened,
Yeah.
And so to see one of my songs and a story that I was trying to tell resonate with so many people across the country is still one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me.
Well, let's backtrack. Let's go all the way when you started singing. How did you know that you had this talent? Did you know?
Yeah, I grew up always loving to sing, just like a kid, kind of lackadaisically singing songs all by himself. When I was 13 years old, my brother's friend passed away pretty tragically, and that was what inspired me to write my very first song, which is called "Miss You." Really, just as a coping mechanism, for me to go through the process of grief. And when I was about 16 years old, I started to realize that girls really like musicians. And, I am not like the most athletic guy. Like I'm average looking. So like, I just wanted to like figure out how to impress girls in high school. And so I started.
It's a good motive.
It was. And so I taught myself how to play guitar by watching videos on YouTube, practiced, and ended up was playing in the trunk of my car, actually, at the Taco John's that used to be in North Mankato. And while I was sitting there kind of throwing myself a little bit of a pity party, I was having an emotional teenager moment. This woman got off of work, and as she was pulling through the drive-thru of Taco John's, she heard me singing. And she got out of her car and came and asked if I would sing in her wedding as she walked down the aisle. And that was like my first paid gig. She probably got me I was the cheapest wedding musician of all time then. I think she got me for like dinner and $50 and a slice of cake. But that was when I kind of fell in love with music. I realized in that moment that I could make someone's day a little bit more special. I could make a moment more memorable by doing something that I had learned to love to do. And I've kind of chased that feeling every single day now for 15 years.
So you do this for others. You perform for other people.
Yeah, I would say I write primarily to tell my stories, but hoping that those stories resonate with other people and they can take something away with it that changes their life.
Well, Tyler, I'm tone deaf, so I don't. I cannot.
You are
sing.
not. You are not
Oh, I
tone deaf.
am.
I'll teach you after the podcast. You're definitely not.
Well, a question that I typically have, like, how does a singer know they're good? You know what I mean? How do you know that you are a good singer? Like, did you just kind of hear it from other people, or is this something you came across yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would say honestly that when I first started, I wasn't very good. It was something that I loved to do. Like I found joy in doing it, but for the longest time, I didn't even like my own voice. Like
Really?
I just found it kind of annoying.
Really?
But it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I kept doing it, and then I kept getting feedback from other people that there was something that they liked, and I figured that since I really enjoy doing this, and other people seem to enjoy me doing it as well, there must be some natural skill there that I need to work to improve and refine. And so, just through a lot of practice, I've become a much better musician, an artist, and vocalist through practice, repetition, and hard work.
I've always just thought you wake up one day and you're like, I'm a beautiful singer, and that's my talent. And you say that you have to work on
Yeah,
it.
it's a skill. Like some people, for example, are more naturally athletic, right? Like some people can just jump higher, but that doesn't mean that if I go to the gym every day and I practice jumping really high, that I can't learn to do that too. Like your vocal cords are a muscle. It's two little muscles about the size of your fingernails that are pressed right together. And when they vibrate together and you control the tension of them, that dictates how quickly they vibrate. And that's what makes your sound when you speak or sing. And so just like with any exercise, just like with a bicep curl in the gym, there's a right and a wrong way to do it.
I'm definitely doing it wrong.
Probably most people are. And so, but some people will start with a little bit stronger vocal cords than others. But that doesn't mean that anyone can't train and practice to get those muscles stronger and learn how to use them correctly.
So do you believe that anybody could become a talented singer?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone in the world is going to like your voice.
Yeah.
So there's this word we use in the music world called timbre, and that's what we use to describe the way that your voice actually sounds. So like the way that my voice when I sing and Adam Levine's voice and Ed Sheeran's voice, they all sound different. That's timbre.
Okay.
And so you can become a really good singer and still have a timbre that no one wants to listen to, right? Okay. But you can still get better at it because there's a right and wrong way to do it.
Huh. Wow, that's really cool. So can you kind of walk us through your writing process?
Yeah, my writing process is, there's a lot of different ways that I do it. When I first started out, I was just trying to write like hit pop songs. And to be honest, I'm not very good at that. So I started kind of pivoting towards writing stories based on my past experiences. Like stop trying to please others with the things I was writing about and write things that I was really passionate about, which for me at this point in my life is mostly stories about my recovery from addiction and my family, and my wife more specifically. I mean, I got some stuff about the kids, but my wife is my muse,
the
right?
Love story.
Yes, the love story is huge. And so the writing process for me really looks like kind of writing down little ideas throughout my day. I have like a whole section of notes on my phone with just hundreds of little like, this is a cool little rhyme or like a cool idea for a song. And I kind of try and write other lyrics that fit into that story narrative. Mm-hmm. And then after I get a ton of stuff written, I start cutting things out until I'm left with like a general form of what a song could be. And then that's when I'll typically start breaking out like my guitar or piano and start dinking around with what I think sounds right to tell that story. Like if it's a sad song, for example, I want to play chords that sound kind of sad, not super happy. So you go through that process and rinse and repeat it a few times. And by the time you're done, you are left with a song. And more recently, one of the interesting things I've done is I started having meetings with some of my fans on Zoom to tell their stories.
Oh, wow.
So I figured, what is there a cooler experience for someone to have than to like sit down with their favorite artist and write a song that's just for them. Like I know if I could do that with Ed Sheeran, I would probably pee my pants. I would be so excited.
You're a big
right?
Ed Sheeran fan?
I love Ed Sheeran. I mean, he's fantastic. And the thing I love about him is how he tells his stories, right? It's not just the music, which is great. It's not just his voice, but it's the story he's telling throughout all of it. And And I figured I wanted to be able to do that with my fans. So,
You know what I've always wondered? How does a musician know that their song hasn't been played before or like the same kind of chord? Does that make any sense? I've always
yeah.
wondered that because it's like there's so many songs out there. There's similar beats, there's similar melodies. Like, how do you know? You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
do you not know?
I mean, there's definitely some of it where you don't necessarily know, but at the same time, you can pretty much guarantee that every chord pattern has been played before.
Okay.
Thing that's really interesting is that most pop songs that have been written in the last 50 years are actually all written with the exact same 4 chords played in the exact same order.
What?
So if you learn these 4 magical chords, you can actually play every single song that you've ever heard. I can show you after the podcast so you
Wow.
know I'm not making this up. But at the
You know
end
the
of
secrets. You know the answers.
yeah, it's literally I'll tell the world it's G, D, E minor, C. And so if you play those 4 chords in that order on repeat, you can play every song ever written. So
Wow.
when it comes to like looking at intellectual property rights and stuff like that, it's really muddy waters because nothing is truly original.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about how it's like almost the intention behind it. Like, were you trying to rip off this person or is it
Yeah.
just coincidence? And if it's just coincidence, then you kind of just say, all right, cool. We both had a good idea.
Yeah. I've always wondered that. That's always been something I've wanted to ask a musician, so I'm glad I got to do that. So did you have a particular instrument that you played before, or is this like you know all?
I mean, I took piano lessons from my grandma when I was like in the 1st grade. And then quickly learned that piano is less impressive to girls, right? And that was
I
why.
love the piano.
Well, I'm glad you're one in a million. But you know, in high school, I couldn't carry around a piano. So when I taught myself how to play guitar, and I can still play a little bit of piano. I'm much better at guitar. Play a little bit of like drums, harmonica, a couple other things. But
Wow.
you'll probably never see or hear me play any other instrument besides an acoustic.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to get into the topic of recovery and how that plays a role in your story, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, you know, I had mentioned that a lot of my music is about my recovery. It's something that I struggled with very heavily for many years. It kind of started off with trying to fit in high school. By the time I got to college, it had started to, you know, rear its ugly head because it was more socially acceptable. Like everyone was going to parties in college, and for me, it became one of those things where I just couldn't stop once I had started. So I would go and go and go until whatever I was using or drinking was completely out and I didn't have any more. And I started losing control. And shortly after I met my wife, I had gotten into some trouble, got into a pretty serious car accident. Thankfully, I was the only person involved and no one else was hurt. But I found myself in jail with a DUI, DWI, I don't remember. And it kind of dawned on me that if I kept making the decisions that I was making, my life was going to end in one of 3 ways. It was going to be in a jail, an institution, or I was going to die. And I decided that I would do whatever it took to get clean and to change my life around. And so I admitted myself into an inpatient treatment program. Graduated from that, moved into a sober house in Minneapolis. I lived there for just over a year. And then when I hit a year clean and sober, my wife and I got married. Like the day I moved out of the sober house, we got married, which was amazing. And I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but I think that everything happens for a reason. And for me, the pandemic actually made my recovery in some ways a lot easier because I had music which was taken away. And so I had nothing to focus on besides getting healthy. And now that I've done that, telling my story of recovery with people and trying to help people not make the same mistakes that I made has kind of become my mission in life. You know, I realized that about 1 in 4 people struggle with addiction at some point in their life, which is a wild statistic. You know, you've got 4 people, 4 roommates or 4 friends, like one of you guys is going to struggle very likely with addiction. And the fact that 25% of the population feels the way I was feeling really inspires me and drives me to continue to write music that can help save and change a life.
What were you feeling during this time? Why were you reaching for alcohol or drugs at this
Yeah.
moment?
Um, there's a couple reasons. I think one was that I felt I deserved something from the world.
Oh.
Particularly when it came to music. Like like I had mentioned, I've been performing now for 15 years and didn't find success until like last year, right? Even with doing hundreds of shows, putting out tons of music, trying to connect with every other musician that I could, I didn't find the success that I thought I deserved.
Mm.
And so that I wanted a way to numb those feelings as opposed to accepting those feelings.
Was it like a sense of control? Like,
Oh,
were you angry that you couldn't control the outcome?
absolutely. Absolutely. And then there was also part of it where I felt like, all right, if I want to be a rock star, I need to act like a rock star. Right. And
Mm.
so they go out and party and trash hotel rooms and all that stuff. So I kind of figured, like, okay, if I want this outcome of becoming the next big thing in music, I have to start acting like it and kind of manifest it. Right.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is that it wasn't until I gave up all of those things that now I found success. So it was the exact inverse of what I thought I needed to do in order to find success.
Why
Which
do you
is
think
wild.
that is?
I think part of it has to do with when I got sober. That was when I stopped performing for me and started performing to impact someone else in the room, in the
Mm.
crowd. My grandma used to say when I was a kid that there's only ever one person in an audience that needs to hear what you're singing,
Aw.
and that's the person that needs to hear what you're singing.
Yeah.
And I never really understood what she meant. And what I think she meant is that, I could be in a crowd of 10,000 people, but if there's one person who, is on the brink of losing control, they're at the end of their depression, they're enough point. Maybe the song that you're singing is the one that saves their life for that day. And that's what I think she meant. And I really took that to heart, is that, I can be in front of a million people. I could be the biggest musician in the world. But if my music is empty and it's not having an impact on people, then what's the point of me singing to begin with?
Why do you think you were searching for the success, might I say? Like, why do you think that was what you were craving?
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with when I was a kid, I really struggled to build relationships with people. I was born with this skin condition. It's a blood disease called mastocytosis. And essentially it was like I had severe allergies and it made me look like I had the chicken pox until I was about 13. So I was covered head to toe in these like red dots
I have
all
that,
over.
I think. It's called KP. It might be different.
I highly doubt it, but we can compare. I'll show you some baby pictures here in a little bit. It's wild. But so that made me just kind of an outsider when I was growing up. And I wanted to feel validated from people. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to feel like after all I had gone through, like I deserved this awesome outcome at the end. And
Like a story almost.
yeah, like
Yeah.
in today's day and age, it's, everybody likes to play like the victim card in some way, shape, or form. And I wanted to be a victim because I thought it would make my life easier, but it really just kind of kept me pushed down and in the muck and the mire.
So I really agree with you, because that was something that I also struggled with. A lot of people tend to believe they're the victim of their results or reality, and then they kind of fall into a pit because they feel like no one's coming to save
Yeah,
them.
it's a cycle of self-destruction. Like you
Yes.
put yourself in the pit, you have all the resources to get out, but sometimes it's easier than making that difficult climb out,
Because it's
Just to
comfortable,
say,
I feel
yeah.
like. A
Oh,
lot of people like
absolutely.
to be comfortable, and playing the victim kind of doesn't give them the repercussions in a sense. Like they feel like they don't have to
Yeah.
be responsible in a sense. But what were the thoughts that you were having when you were playing the victim in your story?
I mean, they were dark, if I'm being honest. Like there were many times that I thought about ending my life or just not caring if my life ended. There was a lot of depression, anxiety, um, constant fear of failure, and honestly, there was a lot of fear of success too. And I think that's one of the unique things about my story is I was scared to not get what I thought I deserved, but I was also scared to get it because I wouldn't have been in control
Ooh,
of
okay.
what that outcome was. Like a great example is January of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. I had gotten a call to go and be like audition for The Voice. Right?
Cool.
I got that call. I immediately went out and I got hammered and I got into that car accident that it led to my sobriety. I
Right
completely,
before it?
literally the day before I was supposed to leave. And because it was easier for me, like I now looking back on it, I know what I was doing. I was scared to go and really live out the dream that I thought that I had wanted, because I wouldn't have been in control of what if the judges say no? What if people don't like me? Like, that's scary. So sometimes it's easier to just hit self-destruct and say, like, I'm used to self-destruction. That's more comfortable than figuring out what success could look like.
Wow. I feel like people tend to be like, I want that, I want that, I want that. But I never thought about being scared of getting it, you know?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that resonates for everybody, but that was definitely like a big part of my story. Like, if I offered you $1 million right now, sounds great, but who knows what, you could go out, think you have $1 million, and then you go bankrupt and now you're homeless. Like, how often have you heard of people that win the lottery and they end up on the streets, right? It's like you literally got everything you ever wanted and you threw it away.
Do you think if, let's say, tomorrow someone's like, hey, Tyler, you're going to be #1 and like, I'm going to give you all this, do you think you'd be ready for it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Why do you think you're ready now and you weren't ready then?
I mean, that's a great question. One, I think now I have reasons to sing and perform that have nothing to do with my desire for success. Like, yes, don't get me wrong, I want to be successful. That's like
Everyone
ingrained,
does.
that's ingrained in me as a person.
Yeah.
But like, I have, like I said, this story to tell about my recovery. If I had a bigger platform, maybe I could help more people. I think that's a big piece of it. I also want to show my kids that like anything is possible if you continue to persevere. And that's a super like cheesy, generic thing. But now that I have kids, I understand that it's 100% true. My daughter's about to turn 3. My son is about to be 3 months. There's nothing in this world that brings me more joy than like coming home from a show and snuggling with my daughter, or like watching a show with them or feeding my son. And as they grow up, I want to show them that like daddy never gave up. And whatever you've been dreaming of since you were 13, if that's really what you want, like you can get it too. Just keep falling forward. You're going to make those mistakes, fail forward, never land on your butt.
I like the way you think. I feel like oftentimes people have a dream and then over the years they start to become more realistic in a sense and they kind of start to give up on that dream or believe that it's not possible for them. Did you ever have those kind of limiting beliefs in your mind that, hey, this is not going to happen? And how did you kind of stray away from those thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. Especially like when music got shut down during COVID, I was like, well, I guess, I can't go into a bar every day if I'm not going to drink. Like, how stupid is that? You're newly sober and you're going to like go into bars and wineries and breweries every single day as a job. And then someone challenged me to like go tell my story at all of those places. And that was kind of the thing that pushed me to keep going. And so I think that when it comes to like breaking through limiting beliefs, I think you have to figure out what you really want.
It's hard.
Right? Like, what do you actually want? Because we all say we want XYZ thing, but if I told you that you had to climb 6 mountains, go to the top of Mount Everest and, like bury some sand in the snow at the top or something to like really get what you wanted, would you do it?
Oof. I don't know.
Right? Like if I told you had to go on the hardest journey you could go on to get the thing you wanted, how badly do you want that thing? And I think a lot of people, they want it if it's easy. They want it if it's handed to me. Or if I only have to do, if I have to drive a mile or 2. But if I tell you got to walk from New York to LA, you might not take that journey to get what you want. And so I think when it comes to overcoming limiting beliefs, you really just have to define what's the outcome you're really willing to drive at.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I would be able to climb 6 mountains for the thing I want. So if you don't mind me asking, and you can completely say, hey, no, but what do you think that is for you?
No, I'm kidding. For me, I think it's,
and you don't have to answer if that's
no,
like,
I mean, it's tricky because like I'm very selfish and I want a lot of things.
But we are all like that.
But if I have to really put the most simple thing I want to write a song that changes someone's life so much that they get the lyrics tattooed on them.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend of mine who wrote a song about his recovery, and he's a much bigger musician than I am. I won't give his name, but he has fans like that are in his like fan club, And in order to like join the club, that's like kind of the rite of passage is that they all get a matching tattoo with his lyrics on their arm.
He has
And
no
so
part in that though, right?
He has no part.
That's the
It's
fan
not.
club.
It's not forced. It's like the fan club.
Like if you're my fan, you have to get a tattoo.
No, it's like the fan club self initiation. They do it voluntarily.
Okay.
But so like that's my dream. Is like I just want to impact lives. You know, like I got to imagine that there has to be some purpose behind all of the things that I went through, both good and bad, and I want to help people to focus on the good and to avoid the bad in their own life. And so, like I was talking about failing forward just a minute ago, like I've made every mistake in the book. I've made every single mistake. And if I haven't made it, I can guarantee you I probably will at some point. I got a lot of life left to live. And so if I can make those mistakes, learn from them and share the story, and then someone else doesn't have to make that mistake, like that's what I want.
That's beautiful. That's a great goal. And something that I noticed you had said is when you were kind of, struggling with substance abuse, you were the one that kind of pulled yourself out of it. Most cases, I feel like people rely on others to kind of help them, but you were the one that were like, you know what, I have to change. What do you think drove you to do that?
My wife, 100%. I'd shared a little bit with you of our story beforehand, without going through the whole process. Basically, my wife and I met, and she left her phone number in my tip jar. She was living in France at the time, and I convinced her to move back to the U.S. Throughout the 6 months that we were in a long-distance relationship, I was able to hide my use. Like, she didn't know that I was an addict. And, I literally got this girl to, she fell in love with me and moved across the planet to date me. And then within a few months of her moving back, she figured out that I was a horrible addict and I was not the person that she had thought. And
how did you cover it up, might I ask?
Well, it was a little bit easier because she was living 4,000 miles away. So it wasn't, that part wasn't too challenging. But I really don't think I was the best at hiding it. I think everybody could tell when I was under the influence of something. And the only person that I was really hiding it from was myself. I was in denial about the things I was doing. And I was like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But it was bad. I know it's like at the peak of my drinking career, I was going through about a liter of vodka a day, which is a lot. I mean, that's a big thing. That was my daily drink, was just a straight liter of vodka, just to like keep me as numb as I wanted to be. It was in a constant state of blackout, and like
what age frame was this?
Let's see. I've been sober now for 5 years, so I mean, this would be 20. Probably between the ages of 22 and 26.
And you said that a big part of the reason you were struggling with substance abuse is because you felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you couldn't control the outcome of what was happening. You were putting in the work, you kept putting in the work, and nothing was happening at that time. Yeah.
And it just kind of what started off as like a little, a couple wild nights turned into a couple of wild like days, and then just weeks, and it kind of just spiraled out of control slowly. And it was a slow fade. It's not like I started off and woke up one day and I was just drinking a liter of vodka, but it led to that. And my wife played a huge role in me wanting to get clean. When I was released from jail 2 days after my last drink, she had met up with my mom to come pick me up from the jail I was at. And my mom told me that she convinced my now wife to just wait a few days before breaking up with me.
What?
Because my wife was like, I didn't sign up for this. And my mom said to her, like, hey, just
Was she going to break up with you?
Yeah, like on the spot.
And she told you to wait. Okay.
And she was like, just wait. Just wait. I don't think like he can take it if you were to leave too. And I think my mom feared for my safety at that point. And over the course of those few days, that was when I decided all on my own. I was like, I don't want to lose what I've been given, right? The love that my wife gave me at the time and he gives me today is a gift. And I didn't want to lose that. And so that's when I told her, I was like, hey, I understand that if you need to go, I understand. But just know that like I'm checking myself into this treatment facility. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna do everything I can. And she decided to stick around.
Hmm.
And then when I graduated from the treatment facility, she was like, "All right, are we starting our lives up together? Like, I'm in this." And I said,
She was ready.
She was ready, and I was
Wow.
like, "Nope, I need to go live in this sober house for a year," because that's what they had told me gave me the best option of like a positive outcome. Because
So people that come out of recovery, they tend to use again after, right? They don't.
yep,
Is that
yep,
the case?
the relapse rate is very, very high.
Gotcha.
And so that was when I was like, they say if you live in a sober house for 6 months or longer, your odds of not relapsing go up by 50 to 60%.
Wow.
And so I was like, all right, well, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
Like if I was serious about doing everything it took to get clean, then that's the route I have to go. And she was like, all right, well then I'll wait. We'll stick around.
That's love.
It
That
is love.
love.
And I ended up staying in that sober house, like I said, for a little over a year. And then the day that I moved out of the sober house is the day that we got married.
Wow. Do you feel like if you hadn't gone to the sober house, things would be different?
Yeah, honestly, I think I probably would have relapsed.
Hmm.
Yeah, particularly because I got sober right before COVID hit. And then I think being in the sober house gave me a group of I lived with 12 guys in like a 6-bedroom house. So we were all doubled up. It was very tight spaces, but it gave me a lot of friends to get me through COVID. And part of my recovery was kind of anyone that was involved with the old Tyler, the using Tyler. So anyone I used to drink with or use with at all, like I had to kind of stop being their friend.
Yeah.
It was just too dangerous. So, and then when COVID shut the world down, like I think about if I hadn't have lived in the sober house, I would have been locked in a 1-bedroom apartment by myself with no job
Yeah.
and nothing to do all day.
Yeah.
That's a pretty dangerous place for someone who's newly sober to be at. But I ended up living with 12 amazing men who are still some of my best friends to this very day.
Can I ask, what was your experience in the sober home? Like you said how many men were in there?
12.
12. So like how does that work? All 12 men are sober. What do you guys talk about? How do you guys help each other out?
It's kind of like living in a college dorm, honestly. Like we talk about recovery and like sobriety, but it's not like we're sitting there like Bible thumping the whole time. And like, it was really just, we're hanging out, where, hey, I'm having a bad day. Have you felt how I'm feeling? I remember like when I called my now father-in-law to ask for my wife's hand in marriage, like I literally had all 12 of them surrounding me in a circle, like, you can do it, dude, you can do this. And so like, it just became this group of guys that like, we all shared, we all came from very different backgrounds, very different age ranges. Like I think my oldest roommate was like 67, still trying to get sober. And my youngest one was probably 18, 19. So like, huge different age ranges from all over the country, but we came together for a singular purpose, and that was to get sober and to help others stay sober as well. And so that kind of united us, and it was a lot of fun.
Let me ask you, Tyler.
Yes.
So, you have this past self, you have all these past friends. I'm sure cutting them off kind of was a lonely road in the beginning, because that is people that were around you, surrounding you for such a long time. You built these relationships with, and I'm sure it was a lonely road at first.
Yeah.
How do you feel kind of cutting ties with your past self? Do you feel like, obviously it served its purpose, but do you feel good about it?
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time that I'm a very fortunate person because I've been able to live 2 lives. I'm one of the few people that has been given a second chance at truly living for the first time. And so like, there's a lot of people that, when I was newly sober, it was very lonely, but I was put into, like I said, that sober house. And even in the recovery facility that I stayed at, like everyone's there for the same thing. It's kind of like going to summer camp, but like sobriety summer camp.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun. Like, we would like work out. There was a gym. Like we would like play games together. I got really into Settlers of Catan. If you've ever played.
No.
No. Always,
fun.
if you ever do, always go for wheat. That's the most important thing. But it was, we bonded very quickly, and it's pretty amazing how if you put yourself into an uncomfortable situation with a bunch of other people who are also uncomfortable, you'll find something to bond over. And those bonds have stretched with me over the last 5 years.
What was something that you learned living in that home for a year?
That I'm not as important as I thought I was, honestly.
Really?
Because like, one of the things I realized is that a lot of the people, at least the guys that I lived with in that sober house, kind of all thought the same way. They kind of thought they were the most important person in the world. just like I thought I was the most important person in the world. And then when you're around a bunch of people like that, it kind of hits you that like, we can't all be the most important. So it's probably more true that like none of us are really that important and we're just normal people.
Huh.
And that's something I think about all the time, is how I'm not all that special. I'm just a guy who sings songs for a living, which is kind of cool, but like I'm just a normal dude.
I'm so curious, like why did you in the past think that you were kind of like one man band? You know what I'm saying? Like the star of the show type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about that.
For sure. And the answer is because I am a one-man band and my job is being the star of the show, right? Like
Yeah.
my whole job is getting people to think I'm the coolest person in the world, and to like kind of like fall in love with me. I make a joke on stage all the time that my real job is finding stalkers that can't figure out where I live. And it's partially true, but like my job is kind of presenting myself as the person who's like always at the center of the stage. You know, I've got the spotlight on, and so I always have to have my makeup on and my best face on and my beard trimmed and all this stuff. And like I think that I didn't know how to turn off the stage version of myself. And so I just carried that person with me everywhere I went, and it bled into every area of my life. Versus now, like I literally call it my performance light switch. And my wife and I joke that sometimes when I come home, I need to turn it off, because I'll come home with that same mentality of like, I just played the most killer show. Like the people like were singing the lyrics of my songs and it was so cool. And she's like, sweet, turn it off and go tuck your daughter in. Like, you know,
so you're on dad duty now.
I'm on dad duty now, right? Like it's a kind of a different version of me. Like they're both me and they're the authentic me, but one's like the work mode. And one has to be the at-home mode. And I used to just leave the work mode version of me on all the time.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I hope this makes sense. You had said that you were always kind of in control. That's something that you wanted. And then you kind of let that go, it seems like. You kind of let go of the fear or of not being able to control everything in the outcome. How do you stay driven and goal-oriented when you kind of let go of the control? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, surrendering control is a huge thing. For me, I believe in a higher power. So there's like, I'm very, very religious. Like I believe in Jesus and God and have faith. I encourage anyone to like just believe in a higher power, whether it's the Force from Star Wars or whatever it is. But there's something out there that's beyond you that has more control over the universe than you do. And so when I realized that like nothing I did, I was really in control of, it got a lot easier to just accept that something else has a plan for me. And it still at times is really uncomfortable to say like, I don't have control over this situation. So I just ask my higher power to give me acceptance for the things that I can't control, and humility when I do get the privilege of controlling something.
Can you compare yourself to a time where you thought you were in control of everything? What was that Tyler like?
I mean, can I swear? No, he was kind of a jerk. Like honestly, like I was not a nice guy. Like I'm definitely more of like the Mr. Rogers of music now. But like before I was clean, like I was very cocky. I was very arrogant. This interview would have been much less fun for you. I was kind of insufferable to be around. And like anyone who knows or knew me back then will likely agree. Like my parents will say it to my face, and they'll tell strangers like he was a jerk 5 years ago, but he's awesome now. That kind of thing.
Was it like ego? Like
yeah, it was all ego. I had a huge head. I definitely I thought that I was the greatest singer in the entire world, and I was going to make sure that you also thought that. It was I wasn't nice. Like I look at like videos on my phone of me or like old snap, like on Snapchat, it'll be like 5 years ago today. Sometimes that'll flash up for me.
I'm like, turn it off.
Oh yeah. When I look at myself, like I was a turd. And even the things I would say on Snapchat, like I was like it would be like pictures of me like flexing in the mirror, be like, my biceps are huge today. I've never had a large bicep before. I can't even spell the word gym. Like I know nothing about any of that. And so like the fact that I was just so cocky and arrogant, and I portrayed it in every area of my life in front of everyone all of the time, it drives me a little crazy.
It's kind of interesting because then you also want people to think this thought of you, but you can't control what people think at all, you know?
Yeah, it is weird. It's one of the things that my wife and I talk about, we see a counselor together once every quarter to like do like a couples therapy checkup kind of
Ooh.
thing. And some of that is really just to like check in both on my recovery and also on like my general outlook on life, for that exact reason that if I start getting too cocky, that's kind of like it's like a
It's like an ego check kind
yeah,
of
like
thing?
kind of like an ego check, right? Like
Okay.
I give her permission to go to a therapist with me, and they both get to berate me for an hour. And I pay for the privilege of having them just yell at me that, Tyler, you've been a little cocky today. But
Does
no,
that hurt to hear though? Like, I feel like now you don't really have the control anymore. You kind of let that go. Like, does it hurt to hear that?
no, it's a good thing.
Hmm.
You know, it's a good thing. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? Not that I have much experience going to the gym, but I've been told that if you work out, your muscles get a little sore. But eventually, you know, it's particularly like that first couple times you go, like it's like you go, you try and run a mile and you don't want to walk the next day. But if you keep running a mile every day, eventually you're like, oh, I could do this forever, you know, and you get used to it. It's kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, it kind of stinks sometimes. It kind of hurts, but it builds my character.
And it's also people that love you. You know, they
Yes.
don't have bad intentions.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
trying to
100%.
help you and elevate you. So I feel like that's very
100%.
important. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
And that is probably one of the biggest tricks with like being an artist who is in recovery, you know, and whose like big red flag in life is arrogance and cockiness. Like I have to portray myself outwardly to the rest of the world as like a big deal, but I can never take that home and like think that I'm actually a big deal.
Yeah. So you come out of recovery, you kind of start looking at things differently now. You kind of let go of that control. How do you feel?
Oh gosh, night and day.
Hmm.
It's like I just said, like I'm one of the few people who's been given a chance to live life twice. You know, once as a dead man walking, once as this person who's really trying to figure out what it means to live and to bring joy to other people. And so it really does feel very, very different. Like I get to wake up in the morning not hungover every single day, and that's pretty
Great
cool.
start to the morning.
It's a great start to the morning. I get to drink coffee instead of vodka. It's awesome. And then, you know, I get to start my day with my family because shortly after my wife and I got married, we got pregnant, and my daughter has just changed my whole world. And now I'm sure my son will do the same.
Well, so can you walk me through Tyler's day to day? Like you wake up, what is your routine? What is the routine of a singer and musician?
Yeah. So wake up. That's probably sitting around 9:30, which is early for me because I stay up very late, often driving home from shows. Right. So I probably get home at like 1, 2 in the morning, and then
Oh, wow.
you know, wake up at about 9. My daughter is on my sleep schedule completely by happenstance, and we just kind of let her run with it. So my wife is downstairs. She makes us breakfast while like taking care of the dogs, and like she makes pancakes and coffee, and then I wake up to the wonderful smell of fresh pancakes, coffee, and bacon almost every
that's
single
life.
morning.
That's a happy life.
I then go and I wake up my daughter. We run downstairs. We typically do like a tickle fight with mommy right away, which she hates because she's very ticklish, and I get a lot of joy out of that. And then I drink my coffee, eat some breakfast. I do a lot of emails. I typically in the morning before noon is when I do my calls with my fans, where I hop on Zoom and we'll either do a co-write or like a meet and greet. I sign my merch and like ship that out in the mornings. Come home, do music lessons with my daughter. So we started doing piano lessons basically the moment she was born. And then, you know, take a nap, wake up, start my drive to my show.
Wow.
And that's kind of my day. It's weird. I don't get many like date nights or anything with my wife, but we do date mornings.
Those are the best.
So if you ever want to babysit at like 8:30 in the morning,
Send them my way.
you got a job. If any of you out there that are listening to this podcast want to babysit my children at 8:30 in the morning, give me a call.
I do have a question. How does it feel having such a strong woman stick around during that time? Because I feel like most women would be like, you know what, I got to focus on myself. But she
100%.
she stayed around.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating, honestly.
Intimidating. Why?
My wife is the strongest and most courageous person that I have ever met. And she's hands down, I also say this, not just trying to like fan the flame of building her up for no reason, but she's also the coolest person that I've ever met. And the fact that someone as amazing as she is would choose to stay with someone as broken as I was still blows my mind. because she would have all the options in the world. But the fact that she chose to stick around, support me because she believed in me, it kind of makes me want to cry a little bit right now. Like it really does. It's kind of scary when someone loves you that much, you know?
And beautiful.
It is
at the
beautiful.
same time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And acceptance is one of the hardest things that we do as people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And I feel like love is just loving the person regardless of what they do, knowing that there's like going to be an outcome. And the fact that she like saw you and was like, you know what, I believe in you, like you said, like that's beautiful. Props to her. Yay.
Yeah. Go May. You're the best.
And also, we are wrapping up on time, but I do ask our guests this final question.
Oh boy.
If you could get ready. If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say?
Man, there's a lot of things I would want to say to that kid. I would tell him to stop worrying about what's going to happen 2 weeks from now and focus on taking life one day at a time.
No control today. That's something I gotta learn now.
No control today.
One
Just
day
focus on hitting your pillow with a smile.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for taking the time to meet with me and sharing your story and being so open and willing.
Yeah.
I know this is going to help a lot of people.
I hope so. Thanks for having me.
Of course.